Hello everyone, it's Dima Hijazi, Automation Team Leader at ISS Software Hub, and in today's episode we'll explain the employee onboarding process using Nintex and automated using Nintex form and Nintex workflow. We'll first have a quick demo about the different steps and the different phases of the service. Then we'll go deep dive technically on how you can build your own employee onboarding process inside your organization. So let's go to our dashboard, our e-services hub, developed on top of SharePoint 2019. So here we have different type of requests in the HR module, in the human resources module. We have job requisition, onboarding, offboarding, and you can structure the services inside your hub as per the requirements you need. So here we have the employee onboarding, new employee onboarding request to initiate any new request. Another tile, my pending tasks, to check and respond to any task waiting your approval. You can check the related documents of each request inside this repository. And you can check the history of all the existing requests, completed one, running one, or even canceled one using this tile. So if you click here, we will go to this form. This form is developed and designed on top of Nintex forms. And if you know, Nintex forms have two types of designer, the classic designer and the responsive designer or the new modern design. In the classic design, you have the ability to add and to embed your own styling sheet, CSS, your own scripts, JavaScript, Angular, JS, embedded inside the form. However, in the new responsive design, you cannot add CSS or any other script. However, the designer gives you the flexibility and the ability to customize the theme based on out-of-the-box styling offered by Nintex. So here we have different tabs. The introduction. If we switch to another tab, we have the request details. Here we have the facilities and request. We have for each request a reference number, a unique reference number. We have also this progress bar based on the state where the workflow stands in. This progress bar will be updated. For example, now the hiring manager will fill out the employee onboarding request. So here we have the red flag. Upon he submit the form, the red will be replaced by a green flag, and it will go to the HR coordinator for approval. So here will be the red flag. We have different tabs, as I said. We have the request details. We have different section inside the request details, from employee details, job details, etc. And based on the role type, the choices and the fields will be adjusted. For example, if it's permanent, we have the employment start date only. If it's contractual job, the filler or the hiring manager should specify the start date and employment end date. We have here the manager name. For example, if I will add Muhammad directly, this field will retrieve all the information, all the accounts available in the Active Directory, and it will be available inside this field. This field is a people picker, people and the group picker field. Out of the box control inside Nintex forms, automatically it connect with the user profile service inside SharePoint to retrieve all the Active Directory accounts with their properties and display it inside any Nintex form. Here we have the list of department, the list of role based on the department. For example, if I go to accounting, the roles will be adjusted. If I will change the department for automation, we have VPA developer, RPA, etc. Here for the department and role, you have different choices where you can retrieve this options or this choices. For example, it can be retrieved from a SharePoint list. It can be retrieved from the SQL database or Oracle database or any external system you have, for example, ERP, Oracle HRMS system, etc. The integration with the services or with this external servers is very easy. You have actions, for example, web service action, where you can call any web service or any REST API or SOAP API using this action, and directly all the options or the output of this web service will be available in your action, and you can choose how this options will be displayed. For example, it will be like a drop down, or it will be like a text, or it will be like a checkbox, etc. Also, it can be retrieved from the database, and in a text form, SQL action, SQL out of the box control is also available, where you can specify the connection string and how you will connect to your SQL database using, for example, Windows authentication or other accounts. You will specify the stored procedure you want to execute, or you add the SQL query you want to execute or to call. Okay. Next, if we will go here to the IT access requirements, here we need to specify the system access. For example, the new employee should have network drive. We'll add a new row. He need to have employee distribution list, etc. And you can at any time delete any row. We have also the VPN and application access. It's a checkbox, CRM, ERP, human resources, etc. VPN access is required or not. In the IT equipment as well, we have the required devices, the additional equipment to provide the employee with. We have the facilities and security. Facilities required, checkbox, yes, no, and based if it's yes, we have the facilities requirement to be chosen by the hiring manager. Or if there is any security that is required, you need to specify the security requirements. And here he should add the attachment or the files, if any, and the audit trail in the initiator form or in the initial form. It will be empty. However, it will be adjusted accordingly and updated during the flow. For example, now, if I submit my request, a validation error should appear that these fields are required inside the panels. For example, here, all these fields are required. So let's start by filling out the form quickly. Female, date of birth, country, married. And now, if I will resubmit the form, this field will not have any validation error. So let's switch now to the form, and let's see how you can build your own Nintex form for the employee onboarding. So I will go here. Here is my list. At any time you need to build any new service or any new request in Nintex using Nintex platform, using Nintex business process automation platform, you should create a SharePoint list. Just this SharePoint list will act as a table, as a database table if you want, where all the data of any request submitted will be saved there. And based on this list, you can create after your own reports, the requested views you need to do. You can also configure the required permission for each request and the display of this request. So here we have the title, the first name, last name, gender. You need to create Any new column inside the list settings will go here. You click on create column, you specify the column name and the type, if it's required or not. And also if you didn't specify the validation here, you can add it at any time inside the rules menu in Nintex Forms. So let's go again to the Forms Designer. You can access Nintex Form Designer from the SharePoint list ribbon. On the top here, we have two buttons, one to access Nintex Forms and another one to access Nintex Workflow. So upon I click here, the Nintex Form Designer will open, and here it's my form. You can adjust the design based on the requirements you have and based on the look and feel of the customer or the organization you need to build this form for. So to add your CSS, you should create for each field or for each field type a unique class name where you will specify the attributes for this class. For example, the font size will be 12, the label, the color will be red, it will be bold. On hover, please do this attributes. If, for example, the user click on this button, it will change the color, etc. So inside the CSS, you will add all the styling and the attributes you want to add and inside your form. So if you go to settings, custom CSS, you can embed directly your CSS here. Like any normal CSS style sheet, or if you go to advanced, you can add the path of your CSS file here. You can upload the CSS file in any SharePoint library and then add this, the path of this file in custom CSS includes. And if you need to add any JavaScript or any script you want to execute during the form submission, also you can add it here. Inside custom JavaScript includes or embedded directly inside custom JavaScript. So first, let's see how you can build your own title or reference number. Every request has its own pattern. For example, we have specific abbreviation to add, then a count or unique number to be generated. So you have different way to configure or to generate this unique number. For example, you can call a function to generate random number. You can adjust the date based on a specific pattern or a specific format. For example, only month, day, year, or day, month, year, or you need to check the time, and based on the time you will generate the number. Also, you can generate this number based on the number of requests itself inside the SharePoint list. So you will create a lookup, and for this lookup, in this lookup function, you will retrieve all the list item you have inside your SharePoint list. You will count these items, and you will increment the number by 1 to have a unique number. So if my list have now 3 items, this request will be the request number 4. So lookup function, you can retrieve this function from the runtime function here available in this menu. And if you read this description, it will give a brief explanation how you can use the lookup for an item inside a SharePoint list and the syntax of this function. So first you need to specify the list name title, then the column to filter on, and what value to filter on, and what is the output. Here I have added another column or another parameter, which is true. If you add it true, to the lookup function, it will retrieve all the available or all the conditions where count equal done. Then you will add this lookup inside the count. So if my lookup retrieve 4 items, item 1, 2, 3, 4, I will count it, it will be 4, and then I will increment the total count plus 1. Then I have my progress bar. To create your progress bar, first you need to add a rich text control. Inside the rich text control, you should specify, you should list the different phase of your flow. So in my case, I have the hiring manager, then HR coordinator, and in parallel, it will go to the IT, the security team, the facility manager, and then it will be completed. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 teams where in parallel, they will receive a task. Then I have, then first I will have the hiring manager task. So I list the phases, then I will go here to edit source, and I will add class. I will embed this class and manually add it, progress tracker, and I will add this one, this tag, script. On once any user open the form, either in a new mode or edit mode or view mode, the status function will be called directly, okay? Status function, it's defined inside the JavaScript section here. So let me, okay. So here inside my function, at any time, one user opens this form either in a new mode or edit mode or view mode, I need to double check the status number. What is the status number? It's a column inside my SharePoint list where it is updated after each step inside the workflow by a specific value. For example, it will be 1 when it will go to the hiring manager. Then it will be 2 when it will go to the HR and IT or security team or facility team. And it will be 3 when the request will be completed. So here is my status number. Status number, I can add it from insert reference item property. If I search to status number, for example, I have here status number. Then how I will change the flag and the color from red to green. It's very easy. I have 2 class inside my CSS styling sheet, in progress and completed. In progress, I just need to have, I specify the background color to be red, the layout to be like a circle, and it's done. For the completed one, it should be green, and same, the layout or the display will be as a circle. So you need to adjust your CSS to follow this coloring. Then how to switch, how to remove a class and how to add a class for a specific state. So at each time, based on this condition, for example, if a status number is greater or equal to 1. So if it's greater or equal to 1, then I am not in the first phase and I am not in the submission form or the initial form. This request is already submitted by the hiring manager. So the first phase, which is hiring manager, should be green, and the next state, so I will need to remove the in progress from the current step and to add the completed class or the green color to the current bullet, and for the current step +1, so the next one, it will be in progress. So you need to use the .classlist.add function available in JavaScript to add or remove a class from a specific field. Let's go now to the tabs. I have here different tabs, so I will use the choice control. I will list here the different tabs I need. I will add the default value. What is the first tab? And I need to adjust the render as button to yes. And automatically the format or the display will be like this instead of a drop down or a checkbox or a choices radio buttons. I have different sections, so I need to create a unique panel for each section. I have here in my form controls a panel, so I can drag and drop it here and adjust it. I can add the title for the panel or the legend here, title, introduction. And if I need to add any class for this control, I only need to do is to specify the name of the class inside CSS class field here. Then this panel should appear only if the user click on introduction, and it should be hidden. For example, I click on audit rate. So I click here on the panel, I will click on rules. Here I have one rule, hide if not introduction. So if tab, the named control tab, does not contain introduction, the field or the section or the panel should be hidden. So I need to specify the named control here. Each control in Nintex has a unique name, and you can adjust this name inside the control itself. So I double click here to set it does not contain or not equal. I need to add this operator, and here I will add my string, which is introduction. However, I can use another runtime function, which is not equal. Not this one. Okay. Okay, you should use not equal. So equals value 1 and value 2, for example, I can add here. Equal. For value 1, it should be tab. For the value 2, it should be introduction. And for the global function, I will have here not. So if tab is not equal to introduction, this panel should be hidden. So I check hide. However, if you go to rule type, you have two types of rule, formatting or validation. Formatting only to be used if you want to change the display of this panel. Disable it, a control, disable a control, hide a control, or change the format of a field or of a text. Okay. Let's go down to check the employee details. In the employee details, we have the first name. You can drag and drop it from here, or your list columns will appear here inside this menu. First name, last name, gender, etc. DOB, the date of birth. And you need, if you have a class related to this field, you should add the class name here. You can add the validation here as well. So if this field is required, you can add the required error message here. You can add also a validation for this date control. It should be less than today. So compared to a value, the compare operator should be less than. A value to compare current date. Current date is available inside the common reference here, current date. So if the date of birth entered by the initiator is greater than today, this validation error message should appear. Also, you have different type of validation. Use a range validation. So it should be, for example, between this date and this date, or between this value or number and this number, based on the field type, of course. You can add a validation based on a regular expression. For example, if this string contains this word or this pattern, please a validation error message should be raised, etc. And you have the use custom validation. You can here, for example, call a function, and based on the result of this function, a message will appear. Here we have the country as a list lookup. I have inside my site, inside the SharePoint site, a list called countries and nationalities, and I will retrieve from the countries and nationalities country name, and it will be displayed as a drop-down list. I can change the display format to checkbox, option button, multiple selection, or multi-select. I can add a filter if any. It will not be used here. We will see it when we will go to the positions available inside each department. However, if you want to retrieve the country's name from another system, you have here is a general SQL request. I drag and drop the SQL request, double click. Okay. I need to specify the server or the database server I need to connect to, the database name, then the authentication type, if it's Windows authentication or SQL authentication. And I need to add the secure store target application ID, where it will contain the credentials that I will use. For example, inside my SharePoint server, the administrator, the SharePoint administrator or Nintex administrator can create a secure store target service where he will create a specific target application ID for a specific server, for a specific database server. And there he will specify the credentials. So the username and the password. And the form designer will only have the name or the ID of the secure store ID without knowing in the back end what are the credentials. So I can name, for example, the secure store ID A. If it's available, of course, you should create it. You should be able to create it first. The query type, if it's a stored post procedure, I need to specify the procedure name. If it's SQL, I need to add my query here. In both cases, I need to specify the value field to retrieve and the display field. Then in the appearance, I can change the appearance of this field. For example, it will be visible only in a specific condition or enable only in a specific condition. And if it's a multi-selection or a drop-down list, I can use a custom select text. For example, if I click here, I can add please select a country. And instead of the default text, which is please select, it will be please select a country, etc. So I will cancel. I will delete this one. And if you want to retrieve your drop-down option or your country name from another server, not a database SQL, you need to use the web request. Similar to the SQL request, you should specify the service URL. What is the web service you want to call, or what is the API? The request method, get or post. Authentication type, if it's anonymous, basic authentication, or Windows authentication. And in both cases, you should add the secure store application ID. You will add the XPath for value and the pass for the display. Nationality as well, it's a drop-down list as all the options are retrieved from a list lookup. You can filter the choices, for example, only retrieve the nationality where country name equal, for example, Saudi Arabia. Let's go down here. I have two types for the role, for the job role, permanent or contract. And you have seen if it's a contract, the employee and date should appear. So I should add a rule, hide if not permanent. So when the role type is equal or contains or equal to permanent as a value, the employee and date should be hidden. So role type equal permanent, please hide the employee and date value or field. Then I have the people picker. I have here a people picker field or action inside my menu. I can drag and drop it here in the people picker. Automatically, all the accounts available in the Active Directory will be available inside my action, and the initiator can search for any name. This control in the back end communicate with the user profile service in the SharePoint server, and directly all the attributes and the account names will be retrieved from the Active Directory. Then I have two other drop-down, department, also from a list called departments, and I will retrieve all the values inside this list. Then for the role, I need to add a filter. So only to display the job title available in each department. For example, for the department, for the automation department, it will be BPA developer, RPA. In the HR, it will be HR manager, coordinator, talent acquisition, etc. So the values to be displayed, it should be filtered. It should be filtered based on the choice of the department field. So filter available selection, it will be by a control value, where department is the column name inside the source list departments and the job title. The column should be filtered by this control, department txt. So I have here all the control name inside my current Nintex forms, and action when no filtered applied, show none. So this list lookup will be populated only if and only for the values where department is equal to the control department txt. However, if there is no items for department equal, for example, finance, no values will be displayed and no values will be shown. Okay, so it's shown on. Click on cancel. Let me go, for example, here. Here I have a repeating section. A repeating section, it's like a repeated table where the initiator can add multiple record or multiple row without any restrictions. So I can add multiple access type, multiple access details. Here, for the configuration, you can add a specific text for the add row icon, for example, add access, save. So this one, add a new row, the default text will be changed to add text. I will double click. You can specify the number of default rows, for example. Once the initiator opens this form, 4 rows will be available, or it will be added automatically. You can specify the minimum number of rows or the maximum number of rows. you can also, if you have specified the default number of rows, you can prevent to add or delete any new row in edit mode or in a new mode, like this one. Click on cancel. And of course, you can change the look and feel of the repeating section using your CSS style sheet. Here we have seen the facilities and securities. It will be the same. The facility requirement will be only shown if this checkbox is clicked or not, etc. And here I have at the end the submit button that is required to save any request and save it inside your SharePoint list. So the type of this request will be saved. And if you want to execute any JavaScript, upon you click on this button, you can click on advanced. And here on client click, you can call your function and define the functions inside the form settings. So by now, we have gone through the forms, the design of the form, and the settings of the form. At the next step, we will see how you can configure your workflow. So here I have the list of workflows available for the new employee onboarding request. You can have different type of different number of workflows. However, one of them, for example, might be unpublished or will not be executed. It's for testing. Another one, it will be published. So all the settings can be adjusted inside your workflow settings. So I will go to new employee onboarding. It will be here. So here inside my workflow settings, can add the title of my workflow, the description, how it will be started. For example, if it is for testing purpose only, I need to adjust this option to no. So start when items are created are no, and only started manually. And usually it is used only for testing purposes. So my workflow, which is new employee onboarding V2 workflow version 2, it will be called automatically when items are created. Workflows might be also executed upon modifying an item as well. And it can be also executed based on a condition. For example, only execute this workflow based on this condition. And here you will specify this condition. When the existing value, for example, when the role type change from HR to any other, for example, here, for example, basic salary is changed, for example, not equal to 100. This is one of the example. Or status or flag is 1, etc. So here you will specify your condition. Here you can specify as well the task list associated to this workflow, where all the tasks will be created there. The history list associated to this workflow as well. Here in the menu, we have the variables that will be used during your workflow, and you can directly create a new variable or modify an existing variable directly from any actions inside your workflow. You can as well create a start form for this workflow. You can have as well a start variable if you want to call this workflow from, for example, from another workflow or from external third party. You should specify the parameter needed for the execution of this workflow. So here I have my workflow. Nintex offers different type of out-of-the-box actions categorized based on the type. For example, Hawkeye for the actions related to the reporting and to connect your workflow to Nintex Analytics platform. You have the actions related to libraries and lists to manipulate list libraries, items, site, permissions, etc. from here. You have the actions related to the logic and the flow, for example, to create a loop, to create a run parallel branches, to create a state machine. State machine, it's used if you have the multiple level of approval and you want to switch between one level to another based on the response of each task. You have the operations to manipulate strings, to do math calculations, to do regular expressions, to retrieve, for example, data from variables, to terminate workflows, etc. Provisioning, if you want to integrate with the Active Directory, you want to create user, Active Directory user, Active Directory group, delete user, delete the specific audience, etc. And you have the user interaction, the most used actions for human interaction, to send a task to a specific user or group inside the Active Directory to get his response or any information from him. So we have different type: flexi task, to-do task, create an appointment inside the Exchange calendar. For example, we have the task reminder, request review, send notification, etc. So based on the requirements, you should use the appropriate task type. Then I have the connectors. I have more than 100 connectors available in Nintex. Connector for the integration. If you don't have, or you have a web service to be called to integrate with its external system, so you have the call web service. If you want to connect to your SQL database or Oracle database, you have the execute SQL. If you want to connect to Dynamics CRM, you have also the connector available. We have connectors with DocuSign, with Google, Exchange Online, Nintex Live as well, to connect with Office 365, SharePoint, etc. So let's see here what we have in our new employee onboarding workflow. I should send first a notification to the initiator that your request or your application has been submitted successfully. So I need to specify the to for whom to send this notification. So if I will go here, I can specify created by a default column inside any SharePoint list. You can copy other emails inside your notification as CCC or BCC. You can adjust the priority or the importance of your email. You will specify here the subject of the email, which is a mandatory field. You can include any list item attachment using this checkbox, or add attachment by adding the path of the file, or by choosing a new file. And you should here specify the file name, the content, and the type. And here you will add your text or the email body. You can add pictures. You can add pictures, tables, links, etc. here inside the email body. And you can format the text body using this ribbon. For any new request submitted inside my employee onboarding, I have a global my submitted request list where all the HR requests submitted inside the e-services side will be created there. So to accomplish this, you should create a list inside your SharePoint site and use the create item action to create any new request. Let's jump here to the audit trail. Usually, I populate the audit trail as a table. So I create here my table tag, my HTML table tag. I specify the column's name. I have here date, the action by, the action description, comments, and during my flow, I will add step by step and append to this table the new row to be added. For example, after finishing or after completing the first phase, which is the hiring manager, I should add that this request is submitted, for example, by the initiator, and this action has been taken at this time. So here I have my HTML. It's a combination between a styling sheet or a style tag and the HTML tag itself. Cancel. Here I will retrieve the attachment. You can retrieve the attachment using the copy to SharePoint action to copy the current attachment or the item attachment from the list item to a destination. So we have created a library onboarding documents where all the documents related to any request will be copied there. You can specify the override option if an item is already existing with the same name, to remove existing item and copy the new item, to rename the new item, or to update existing item with a new version. You can also create a folder structure, and you can specify if you want to copy the item metadata or not. Here I need to update the status number that it will be used inside my JavaScript called in the initial form. And here I will have my approval or my flow. I need to use the parallel action available here in the logic and flow to send in parallel 4 tasks to 4 different teams with 4 different forms and get their opinion on the onboarding process. So for the IT tasks, the facility management tasks, security, and HR. For testing purposes, I have specified the assignee of each task at the initiator, just for the sake of testing. However, you can have a separate SharePoint list where all the roles will be specified there. Who is the HR manager, or who is the IT manager, or the facility manager, etc. And you can query any role and any name from this list. So here we will use the assign flexi task. We don't have any outcome, approve or reject. So you can hide the outcomes using this one. This option, do not create branches. You can specify the task name here. And if the task is assigned to multiple person or a group, you can specify the behavior of this task here. First response applies, the majority must choose a specific outcome, all must agree, majority decides, and based on the outcome decided, if, for example, we have specified all must agree, and one of the assignees has rejected the task, it will be sent again to all the group members until the outcome is achieved or the behavior is achieved. Then I have my task notification, similar to the send notification we have seen earlier. Not required notification if for some cases the task is not required because someone else has taken action instead. We have the reminders, can specify the number of reminders, the time between reminders, how this time between reminders will be calculated, if it's during business days only or business hours only. Business days and business hours are specified in Nintex administration inside the central admin. And here you can add the reminder notification. Then we have the escalation. We have 2 types of escalation in Nintex: to delegate tasks to another person after a specific period, or complete the task. For example, reject 5 days and the assignee didn't respond to the task. or it will be approved after a specific period. Then I have my form itself. So I need to create a form for the task. Usually it will be the same initial form with added section. So here I have the employee details, on the reference number, the submitted by, the employee start date, etc. Then I have this section, which is dedicated for the IT equipment. It should specify the additional equipment to be added, the required devices, here the equipment type for each equipment type, the make, the model, the asset number, etc. It will be all grouped inside a repeating section for the product category as well. Reviewed by whom, reviewed dates, for example, here for the reviewed by whom, it will be the assignee of the task. So you can use the user profile functions available here in the runtime function. For example, user profile. This function will look up the user profile data from the SharePoint server, which is user profile service, and it will retrieve the display name or the preferred name of the current user. So here we need to specify the domain login. So I will go to common, choose current user. And for the preferred name, it will be the internal property name inside the Active Directory, which is a preferred name. And if you search online, you will see all the list of attributes and internal property name inside the Active Directory. We have preferred name, we have work email, we have manager name, etc., location, office. Then the review date, which is the current date of the submission. So as well, the current date is available inside the common here. So I will format the current date to be day, month, year. Then I will add the current time to be displayed for the assignee. And we have the review status. Here he can add his comments and he can add attachments if any. I will close this one, cancel. For the same, I have the facility management task. To assign a task to the facility teams, and I will need to add a task to the security manager and the HR manager. So here we have 4 tasks running in parallel for 4 different teams. Then I need to adjust the history data or the audit trail. For example, if I will double click here, I have created a table where all the actions taken during the flow will be appended there. So I will use a regular expression to replace the footer of my table with a new row, the current date and time, then who have taken the last action, then what is the action taken and what are the comments. For example, if I will go here, insert reference, there's 2 common variables that are very useful inside Nintex, which is the last task responded name and last task responded comments. Sorry. Inside these 2 variables, we will have who have taken the last action inside my workflow. So last task respondent display name, it will display the name of the user who last registered a response to a task. And we have the approver comments, the comment of the approver who responded to the most recent task as well. So we can benefit from this 2 variable and add it inside our regular expression. Then we need to replace the footer of my table with this new row. And of course, don't forget to add the table tag at the end. As an input, it will be the request history, and we need to store the result inside history data. We need to adjust the status. of course, and to adjust the audit trail that will be available inside any new request. Once all the 4 teams complete their tasks, it will go to the HR manager to review the task, to review the final form, get his comments and complete the request. Let's see first, before we go down, on how we can generate a document and integrate with Google task list. Let's see the audit trail. Let me go here to one of the requests. Let me, for example, access this one. As you can see here, completed with the hiring manager, and it's pending with the HR coordinator. Let me edit the item. Here inside my audit trail, I have the table. I have one column since it's only submitted by the hiring manager. And here we have the date, the action bar, the action description, and if there is any comments, it will appear inside this column. I will go back to my workflow. Here I have document generation. So what is document generation? You can automatically generate any type of document based on a specific template. This template can be a Word document, Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF, and generate a final one output based on the current request and adjust the variable to be based on the current request. This template will be stored inside a SharePoint list, and you can tag this document using Nintex document tagger. So let's click, for example, on open and tag. When you click on open and tag, it will open the document or the template inside Word because it's a Word document. Let me go instead directly to the library where the onboarding documents are stored. Okay, so here I have 2 documents, new employee onboarding. Let's wait until it opens. And I have the NDA robotics. This 2 Word file, it will contain specific variables. The specific variables will be generated from Nintex document tagger. Nintex document tagger will include the column's name, the variables inside my workflow. I open it here. Okay. So here it's one of the document, and as you can see here, the Nintex document tagger is loaded. Here I will have my template. I need to add here the country of the employee. So I will go to the item property. I will search to country. For example, it's here. Just I need to double click and it will be added. The tag is inserted. So I have here the item properties from my SharePoint list. Images, if any. If I have any image inside my document generation action, the common variable, which is initiator name, current date, current time, etc., and my workflow variable. And upon I close, it will be saved automatically inside my SharePoint list. I can add multiple documents to be generated inside one document generation action, and I will specify here the generation type. If I need to merge all the PDF file in one file, I need to separate it in different files, or I need the original file type. So, for example, if I have a Word document as a template, I will generate a Word document, and I don't want to convert it to PDF. So here I will specify the different template I want to generate, I will specify here the output file name. The file extension is not required. It will be automatically detected based on generation type. And I will specify the output location where I will save or where I will store my generated document. If I want to add any table or any repeated table inside my document, just I need to use this table data fields from the document generation action. In our case, I don't have any table to be generated in the document. However, you can refer to Nintex help documentation and Nintex community to get more information about how to configure the table data and images. If you need to add any dynamic image inside your document or the final document, you can add it here. Specify the tag name and the image URL. Let me cancel. Let me go again to my library and just see one document, how it will be generated. It is already existing and archived inside my SharePoint library. So here is my final document. I have first the welcome kit based on the employee onboarded name. We have here my name, Dima Hijazi, and all the information that I have added inside my form will appear here, from the employee details, the role details, etc. Then we have the NDA agreement. And as you can see, we have merged the two documents, the employee welcome kit and the NDA, inside one PDF. I will go again here. You can use Nintex Sign to electronically sign your generated document or any document stored inside SharePoint or any external drive, for example, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, or any file server available inside your network. Then you can integrate your workflow in Nintex on-prem with Nintex Workflow Cloud and start automatically a Nintex Workflow Cloud workflow using this action, start workflow in Nintex Workflow Cloud. And to benefit the different features and the different capabilities of Nintex Workflow Cloud and added inside your on-premises solution. So here we have integrated with Nintex Workflow Cloud, and to send the below parameters, I have here my Nintex Workflow Cloud to create an event inside Google Calendar and to create different tasks for different teams inside Google Tasks. So first you should call the start URL of your Nintex Workflow Cloud in NWC or Nintex Workflow Cloud. Upon you publish any workflow, a URL, external start URL, will be generated with a unique token. Here's the external start URL. And upon you can connect to the start URL, all the parameters required will be available here, and you should specify the field or the value for each parameter. Here is my Nintex Workflow Cloud. I will not go deep here inside NWC because it will not be our topic, our main topic. So just in brief, mainly all the features that is available inside Nintex on-prem are available as well inside Nintex Workflow Cloud. Additionally, you have more features, more advanced feature, more flexibility inside NWC. So here's my workflow. You can specify the start event of your workflow. You can start the workflow based on a call from a different workflow based on a form, a schedule start based on an item that is added inside in SQL or in SharePoint Online, or CRM. So it can be called from anywhere, from any start event, external start event or internal event, using an Nintex form or without using an Nintex form. You can call a workflow in NWC. I need to connect to Google Calendar. So you should create the connection in the connection page in your NWC tenant. Specify in which calendar you need to create this event. Then you will add the details of your event. Then I will connect with Google Tasks, and you should create a connection with Google Tasks. All the connections you create inside your NWC will be available here, and you will add the task title. I have here 3 titles just to specify for each team what tasks should be done. For example, with the security team, to grant VPN and application access to this employee, to this new employee onboarded. Then we have another task, which is, for example, to provide him access to company areas, to provide him with the required devices, etc. So you can benefit from the extension framework and the integration capabilities of Nintex Workflow Cloud and enhance your workflow in Nintex on-premises. It's the end of our episode. Thank you for your time, and hope I have explained well the employee onboarding process and how you can benefit from Nintex forms and Nintex workflows. Thank you.